They really hate each other now, and they cannot hide it anymore.
She was the villain.
How was she dangerous?
Because of the need for her to rehabilitate her image.
The cameras were supposed to capture another glossy royal fairy tale moment, polished and picture perfect for the headlines. Instead, they zoomed in on something heavier, something tense, something clearly off. The sparkle wasn't shining the way it should have, and people could feel it right through the screen. The mood flipped in seconds. When Prince Harry stepped out of that black SUV in New York, his face said everything before a single word was spoken. His eyes looked tight.
I know my latest money-making scheme is going to be cosplaying the final night that Princess Diana died. It's truly sick. He just doesn't seem to give a damn.
Jaw locked, shoulders stiff like he was bracing for impact. This wasn't calm or mysterious silence. This was pressure building up fast. The kind of pressure that hits right before somebody cracks under bright lights. Meghan moved differently. She switched into routine mode, smile on, posture straight, camera ready like a pro. It looked polished, smooth, flawless on cue. She played the role perfectly, no slip-ups.
Body language. My God, no amount of PR spin is going to deal with that.
You completely see that she is shaken by this.
But the contrast between them? Loud. You didn't need subtitles to see it. The space between them felt sharp enough to cut through the glam. One wrong move, one awkward breath, and the whole scene could have turned messy. Then it happened. Through the crowd, noise, and camera clicks, someone shouted, "Stop using our offspring!" And the air changed instantly. Harry's head snapped toward the voice, anger flashing across his face for a split second. He turned away fast, but not before grabbing Meghan's arm.
Maybe he is still very upset over her stunt over in Paris. I can't imagine that didn't go unnoticed by him.
It didn't look soft or romantic. It looked urgent, sharp, like someone trying to pull the situation back under control. His lips moved, but nobody heard what he said. All anyone could hear was tension. Cameras kept popping nonstop. Reporters yelled their names. But that fairy tale glow, it was fading fast. Those smiles weren't warm or dreamy. They were survival smiles. The kind you wear when everything feels shaky and you know the whole world is watching every blink. From that point on, nothing looked smooth. The prince who once challenged the palace now looked like a man trying to shield himself from the heat.
The simmering tension between the duplicitous Duke and his facelift-enhanced wife. Here's the red carpet arrival.
Hey, Harry, when are you going upstairs?
From cameras, from expectations, maybe even from whatever was happening behind the scenes. They walked the red carpet side by side, but every step stretched that invisible distance wider. To the public, it was glam and glitter. Insiders, though, quietly called it a silent war. Every camera flash carried the same silent question. What turned devotion into frustration? What flipped the script from romance to friction? New York buzzed that night with sirens, flashing lenses, and sky-high expectations. This was supposed to be their comeback moment. The Duke and Duchess stepping back into the spotlight, reclaiming their shine. The venue glowed in gold, styled to scream rebirth and power. But people inside said the vibe felt off from the start.
Especially when he's on the BBC saying that it's not safe enough for my family in the UK, but it's safe enough for Meghan to be alone in Paris, literally engaging with the paparazzi, you say.
Staff whispered about a tense exchange inside the SUV just before they stepped out. One security insider claimed Harry's face looked ice cold. No warmth, no spark. Meghan, according to that same source, sat upright fixing her earrings in the window's reflection, focused on her image and not looking his way. When the doors opened, it felt like every camera in Manhattan locked in. Producers had planned a clean entrance. One pace, one smile, one perfect image. But it didn't go like that. Harry stepped ahead of Meghan, walking faster, eyes down on the carpet instead of toward the crowd.
Our children, Archie and Lily, are just 6 and 4 years old. Luckily, still too young for social media, but we know that day is coming.
That wasn't confidence, that was distance, And insiders say this pattern didn't start that night. Weeks earlier at a private industry dinner, Meghan reportedly reached for Harry's hand. He pulled away under the table, whispering something short and firm. One witness said that moment felt like the warmth drained out of the room. Body language experts later echoed the same thought. Something had shifted long before New York. What happened at the award gala wasn't just awkward timing. It looked like the public reveal of tension that had been building for months. Insiders agree on one thing, but clash on the reason. Some blame fame. Others say non-stop pressure. A few point toward control issues.
The New York Times are finally realizing, actually, his wife might be a disaster tourist, but he is a disaster when it comes to charity, especially African charity, because he doesn't actually give a damn.
But almost everyone agrees the fracture was already there. One source close to Harry claimed the real breaking point didn't even start in America. According to them, it began quietly in Paris, away from the noise, away from the cameras. To the outside world, Paris looked like a victory lap. The Duke and Duchess stepped onto the red carpet, polished, powerful, united as flashes exploded around them. Tabloids hyped it as their big reset.
For years and years and years, he used Africa because it was good for his PR.
The night they would flip the narrative and take back control. Every detail had been mapped out carefully. The outfits, the walk, the timing. Meghan shimmered in metallic gold, every move intentional, every glance aimed straight at the lens. Harry wore a classic tux, nodding toward supporters behind the barricades.
Harry usually introduces his wife, not last night. And my God, the look she shot him. It's like, you just wait till we're back at home.
On paper, it screamed strength and resilience. Two former working royals turned global figures. But when that first wave of flashes hit, the tension slipped through the shine. The illusion didn't shatter loudly. It cracked quietly, right there under the lights. Even people watching the live streams felt it through the screen. Harry's face didn't match Meghan's energy at all. She was smiling, waving smooth and steady, playing the part with precision. He looked like he was just getting through it.
Doesn't work for you to shoulders back, breasts out, headlights going, and try to look as bitchy as possible.
A tight exhale slipped out, small but loaded. Strain flickered across his face, the kind no amount of media coaching can fully hide. Then the calm cracked. A single voice sliced through the noise, sharp and raw. Stop using our offspring. Everything stalled. Conversations cut off mid-word. Cameras froze on that exact second the air shifted. You could almost hear the tension drop heavy. Meghan's smile stiffened. Harry's jaw locked tight. His eyes snapped toward the heckler, then darted straight to the entrance doors. This didn't look like surprise. It looked like recognition, like those words hit a nerve that was already sensitive behind closed doors. Seconds later, Harry reached for Meghan's arm.
She's sort of very needy, isn't she? She loves to be loved, and she hates the British people, that she'll never come back to this country because she knows people don't really want her back in this.
Not soft, not affectionate, urgent. The same move cameras later brushed off as guidance was described by one nearby photographer as a signal. Warmth had vanished. In its place, control, efficiency, the need to move fast and keep it together. From that moment on, the night unraveled quietly. They hit their marks, applause, laughter, poses, but the connection, gone. To casual viewers, it was glam. To people really watching, it felt like grief dressed up as grace. What the public praised as a comeback looked more like the first crack in something already fragile. On the surface, flawless. On replay, colder. Every clip from New York got slowed down, zoomed in, studied frame by frame. No sound needed. The body language said enough. The distance wasn't about physical space on a carpet. It showed up in gestures. Harry's hand hung stiff at his side, fingers twitching slightly. Each time Meghan leaned closer, her smile widened for the cameras. Harry blinked hard, like someone folding inward, trying to disappear in plain sight. Body language experts didn't soften their take. One analyst called Harry's posture defensive withdrawal, the stance of someone emotionally shutting down under pressure. And insiders say once that switch flips, pretending gets harder by the minute. Another expert pointed out something even more telling. Meghan's laughter landed seconds late, almost like she was following a cue. It looked like timing without connection, coordination without chemistry, and sources say this pattern wasn't new. Weeks earlier, at a charity event hosted by Kevin Costner, Harry's frustration was visible even when cameras weren't locked in. When Meghan tried steering a conversation, his jaw tightened. His stare drifted distant, almost cold. That same expression showed up again in New York, only heavier this time, harder to ignore. Behind the scenes, whispers grew louder. A stylist who worked with Meghan that night said a fitting session ended abruptly after a disagreement about her outfit. A publicist later recalled Meghan's voice echoing down a hallway, sharp and clipped, followed by a door shutting fast. Harry didn't raise his voice. He went silent. And insiders claim silence became his new default. No more arguing, just pulling back. That withdrawal followed him straight onto the red carpet. Online fans noticed instantly. Side-by-side photos told a different story than the captions. Harry leaned away, expression guarded and flat. Meghan leaned in, camera-ready smile locked in place. Agencies labeled the shots romantic. Longtime watchers saw something else. Endurance, not affection. By the end of the night, even some event staff stopped calling it chemistry. One producer quietly said it felt like watching two actors share a scene they no longer believed in. That line stuck. So what turned partnership into performance? To understand that, you have to rewind. Not to New York, not to California. Back to Paris, where insiders say the fracture first widened. Before New York, there was Paris. It was positioned as Meghan's comeback moment. Front row seats, couture gowns, luxury dripping from every angle. The photos screamed success. But behind those flawless images, witnesses noticed something colder. They moved through the same space like two people on separate paths. Harry kept a visible distance, eyes fixed forward. Meghan worked the room, greeting designers with her signature smile soaking in the spotlight. To the public, it was glam. To those close enough to read the room, it felt like frost. Then came the moment that shifted everything. Meghan's team filmed her walking through the Pont de l'Alma tunnel, a location forever linked to Princess Diana's tragic accident. Meghan smiled softly at the camera, scarf pulled close, expression calm and composed. When the clip went online, backlash hit hard. But inside their private world, sources say it triggered something deeper. According to people close to them, Harry was furious. Not loud, not explosive, just shaken in a way that lingered. This wasn't quick anger that fades fast. It was the kind that sits heavy and changes the atmosphere completely. This wasn't loud anger. This was heavy, quiet rage. That tunnel wasn't just another landmark to Harry. It was sacred ground. It carried history, memory, loss. For Meghan, it symbolized legacy and reflection, something meaningful and artistic. For Harry, insiders say, it felt like a boundary had been crossed. That difference hit hard. Sources claim the argument that night was intense, not chaotic, precise. Words landed sharp and fast. Harry reportedly demanded to know how his mother's tragedy could be used in a public moment like that. Meghan insisted it wasn't disrespectful. She framed it as thoughtful, intentional, even artistic. But insiders say that was the moment something inside him shifted. For years, Harry had defended her against critics, headlines, and online storms. After Paris, people close to them claim he didn't have the same fire anymore. The silence between them grew louder. Harry stopped shielding. Meghan stopped over-explaining. Their smiles started to look timed instead of natural. Affection became choreography. Every public appearance felt mapped out. every glance measured, every touch carefully placed for the cameras, like they were holding an image together that was already thinning out behind the scenes. After Paris, the shift wasn't dramatic. No explosive fallout. It was subtle, slow, unsettling. Friends say Harry didn't lash out. He went quiet. The playful jokes faded. The easy warmth cooled off. When people asked if everything was okay, he nodded and switched topics. That silence wasn't peace. It was retreat. Insiders first noticed it during planning meetings. Harry used to push back, challenge ideas, speak up. Now he stayed neutral, eyes lowered, hands folded. Meghan spoke more, decided more, directed the flow of the room. To outsiders, it looked like teamwork. To people sitting at that table, it felt uneven. One former advisor put it bluntly, he checked out. Not physically, emotionally. Present, but distant. That kind of withdrawal doesn't happen overnight. It builds when someone feels unheard for too long. Public events followed the same rhythm. Harry would arrive early, leave quickly, avoid lingering conversations. Meghan stayed composed, camera ready, glowing under the lights. She leaned into the spotlight. He hovered near the edge of it. Frame by frame, they looked united, but the imbalance showed if you watched closely. Then came the scheduling shifts. Harry began skipping optional events. The public reasons were exhaustion, privacy, needing personal time. Insiders suggest it wasn't simple burnout. It was avoidance. Each appearance seemed heavier than the last. Behind closed doors, communication reportedly thinned out. Arguments didn't explode. They stalled. Conversations trailed off unfinished. Harry stopped pushing for resolution. Meghan kept moving forward. When one person slows down and the other speeds up, the gap widens fast. Friends close to Harry say he leaned back into old habits. Long solo walks, late nights reading, time spent away from shared spaces. He wasn't plotting some dramatic exit, he was coping. Meanwhile, Meghan doubled down on precision. Every outfit planned, every event polished, every detail curated for impact. To her, control meant stability. To him, insiders claim, it felt like pressure stacking higher. The tension surfaced in tiny moments cameras almost missed. A pause before stepping forward together. A split-second delay in reactions. Smiles that didn't quite reach their eyes. Touches that looked practiced instead of natural. Staff picked up on it too. One assistant quietly said they stopped moving like a unit. And once that rhythm breaks, it's hard to fake that sync again. What once looked like partnership started to resemble parallel paths. Same destination, different pace, same public image, different private emotions. By the time New York happened, the cracks weren't fresh, they were exposed. The red carpet didn't create the fracture, it revealed it. And the hardest truth, according to insiders, wasn't about one argument or one mistake. It was the slow realization that they might not be fighting for the same thing anymore. Harry wanted peace. Meghan wanted momentum. Both kept smiling. Both kept showing up. But behind the flashes and applause, the story had already shifted. Not with a dramatic blow-up, not with scandal, with distance. Distance that grew louder every time the cameras clicked. By New York, the performance felt like muscle memory. The laughter sounded mechanical. Eye contact looked timed. And the man standing beside her didn't seem angry anymore. That stage had passed. Observers say he looked drained, hollow, emptied out. And that's the part no one expects. Not rage, not headlines, just quiet emptiness. Because when love turns into survival mode, it doesn't always explode. Sometimes it erodes. Slowly, quietly, completely. What began in Paris didn't end in New York. It simply became visible. Every story has a rhythm, and theirs started to stutter, like a heartbeat skipping beats, uneven, fragile, hard to ignore. You could sense it in the pauses between smiles, in clipped sentences whispered off camera, in silences that stretched a second too long and left the air feeling heavy. No dramatic ending, no loud collapse, just a connection fading under bright lights, one flash at a time. This wasn't some bright, glossy fairy tale splashed in gold. It felt painted in shadows. Cold silver flashes bounced off the red carpet, sliding past microphones, blending with the low hum of a crowd waiting for something to crack. Every public word sounded polished, rehearsed, camera-ready, but every pause, that's where the truth lived. They never said it out loud. Now their story feels like half theater, half confession. Big staging, tight control, but stitched together with a silence that makes you lean in instead of look away. Because what seemed to be breaking between them wasn't loud or explosive. It was the quiet kind of unraveling that happens under breath, behind closed doors, between two people who know the script so well they won't admit they're lost inside it. Every move looked calculated. 3 beats of tension. 1 beat of calm. Every sentence cut short, like neither one wanted to finish the thought. Harry's voice sounded slow, clipped, contained. Meghan's voice stayed steady, but there was strain under it. Together they sounded like actors deep into the final act of a movie that's already heading toward its closing scene. And that's what made it hit harder. This wasn't chaos, it was precision. A flawless image built on controlled emotion, slipping slightly out of sync, frame by frame. The more you listen, the clearer it gets. Every pause, every glance, every carefully chosen word felt layered. Somewhere between performance and confession, their silence grew louder than anything they actually said. Maybe the smiles were once real. Maybe the laughter on those early red carpets wasn't scripted yet. But somewhere between spotlight and stillness, something shifted. The glances grew shorter, the touches colder. What began as rebellion against the crown slowly started to look like resistance toward each other. Every story has a final scene. Some end with headlines and drama, others fade so quietly you barely notice it happening. For Harry and Meghan, insiders suggest it may never be a loud press release or dramatic public split. It could be the slow fade, the kind that happens so gradually that one day they just stop standing side by side. The cameras move on, the headlines shift, but the question lingers like an echo in the background. Was this love built to survive the fame that helped elevate it? Because when affection turns into performance, and loyalty starts looking strategic, the fairy tale doesn't shatter in one blow. It dissolves, frame by frame, smile by smile. And in the silence between flashbulbs and real life, the truth waits patiently. What unfolded in New York wasn't just another tense moment. It felt like a mirror, a reflection of something Meghan may have faced before, the slow cooling, the quiet pivot from intimacy to positioning. The pattern feels familiar to some observers. Charm, spotlight, distance once the cameras fade. And if you think this was the first time someone close to her sensed that shift, think again. Before there was a prince, there was another man, Joe Giuliano, Meghan's first husband, the man who once promised forever, long before the world knew her name. He has spoken publicly in the past about why the relationship ended, and people close to him have hinted that his family had concerns early on. His perspective adds another layer to the story. Some believe his reflections help explain the emotional distance people now claim to see on red carpets. Others see it differently, but the pattern conversation keeps resurfacing. If you want to understand why Harry's silence feels so final to some watchers, then you have to look back at the first chapter of Meghan's public journey. Because sometimes the past doesn't repeat loudly. It repeats quietly. If this breakdown made you see things from a new angle, drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you're into deep dives that peel back the layers like this, hit subscribe and stay locked in for more. And if this story got you thinking, share it with someone who needs to hear it.